Welcome to Chaos Cortec. Hey guys, welcome back. So, I think it's about time for an update on WallE and BB-8. It's been about a month since I announced the winners of the survey, and so it's well overdue that I get you guys this update. And mostly what has been going on since then is one, I did some researching as far as parts and stuff like that. So I made sure that I got some good motors and everything like that, and then I had to order those parts and wait for the parts to get here. And just I've been doing a lot of research and thinking about how I want to build these because I don't want a repeat of R2. Where I get him all made and then turns out the motors weren't strong enough and just things didn't go my way on that one. So I wanted to make sure that did not happen again. So I haven't made very much progress in terms of the CAD, like the models and stuff like that. I've done just a little bit on WallE. I have not started BB-8 in there yet, but I have made quite a lot of progress on the design and figuring out the dimensions, which is actually a huge part of it, because once I have the dimensions made, I can just go into the CAD, just go away with it, and I don't have to worry about trying to make things accurate from that point. Okay, well, you guys are probably getting tired of staring at my hand, so let's talk, or let's get something to show. So I did get the parts in, and like I said, I wanted to avoid the R2 situation again. So I got a lot of different motors that I can test out. Let's just run through them real quick. First of all, these are just normal servo motors. They are sub-micro sized, and you know, they're pretty much just your normal 180 degree servos. And I figured I would use these for WallE's head movement, because I'll need one to actually turn his whole head part. And then I need one to actually turn his eyes. And so I figured these would work great, and they're small enough that I could fit them in there without having to worry too much about it. So those are great. And then when it actually comes to driving WallE, like I said, I did not want a repeat of R2, so I got a couple different options. The biggest problem I had with R2 was that the motor did not have enough torque. So basically what was happening is the mechanics worked, the motors could not drive it. They would just stall out, which sucks. But trying to learn from my mistake, I went back and started researching a bunch of torque values and stuff like that. So it turns out the stepper motors I was using for that only have about 20 grams of force per centimeter, which is not a lot. But, I mean, that's fine for those servos. They weren't prepared to handle what I was trying to throw at them. So, each of these has substantially more. Like, we're talking a couple kilograms of force per centimeter instead of, normal grams. So, significantly more. And so, I made sure that just about whatever I did, these would be able to handle it. And actually, I got just about every different type of motor that you could imagine for this. Actually, I didn't get brushless motors, but this one right here is a continuous rotation servo, so it's just like these normal servos over here, but instead of only rotating 0 to 180 degrees, this one just continues to rotate. And so, being a servo motor, it's got quite a bit of torque, and I figured that would be good. And then I also got this bad boy right here, and this guy is a beast of a stepper motor, and I basically got this as a last resort in case for some reason these other motors could not handle it, that this would be able to drive him. And so this is just a regular stepper motor in function, so it's got the 4 wires there. But after I found those, I came across this in the Adafruit store, and I think this is a relatively new item of theirs, and it's really cool. It is a DC motor, but it's in a servo body. So I don't know if you can actually see it there, but right over here is where the motor is, and then there's gears in the top of it So it has quite a lot of torque, but it's just run like a normal DC motor. There's just 2 wires. So there's 3 major advantages of this. One, it's small, so I can fit it just about anywhere I need to. 2, the gearing gives it quite a bit of torque. And then 3, it's just easy to use because there's just 2 wires and it's on or off. And through the use of an H-bridge, we can make it go forward or backward. So I think my first attempt is going to be to use these guys. I think these have something like 2 kilograms of force per centimeter, so plenty. I'm hoping. A lot more than those stepper motors for sure. We're going to try this. And then, as far as other components that I got, I also got some smaller microcontrollers. This is the Adafruit Trinket, and these are incredibly cheap. I think they're only like $5, which is amazing. And it's basically like an Arduino. I think it uses the @tiny microchip on there. And as you can see by my finger size, that is super tiny. This is a normal Arduino for size comparison. And it pretty much has all the functionality that this guy has, but it just has less pins, less input and output pins. So I figured I might find some use for this. And also I don't think this has a serial monitor, so you won't be able to do any of the serial commands with it, which is fine with me. And then this is the Adafruit Trinket Pro, and this one's really cool too, because I think this one's only like $10, but it is actually a full Arduino on there. So it is basically this in this size. And obviously, you know, it doesn't have like the DC barrel jacks and the big USB port right there. And I don't believe this one has a serial monitor either, but it has all of the same input and output pins, and it actually has the full chip like this on it as well. So if worse comes to worse and I need a lot of space, I can use these instead of relying on this, because in R2 it was pretty difficult to fit this inside the body. And then the last thing I got was an SD card reader, because I have some little speakers, and so I was going to try to put some sounds in there as well. And that way WallE can say his name and BB-8 can make his little beeping noises. Okay, so that's it for the electronics update. Let's look at the designs real quick. So this is what I've got for WallE. And as you can see, there's actually numbers this time. So I kind of charted out what the sizes need to be. That way I can just throw it in the CAD, Tinkercad, and run away with it and not have to worry too much about sizing, because that is by far the most difficult part. And basically how I have to do this is I determine, because right there is the servo motor that I'll be using, or the DC motor and a servo body, but I take the size of that, figure out what I need to do with it, and that's pretty much going to be my smallest limiting factor. So I can take that and figure out how big this wheel needs to be, and then from that look at reference images and figure out the scale that he needs to be at according to that wheel. And then that's where I get the rest of these numbers. So this is basically the same image that I showed you guys last time. It's just more refined, got some numbers, and it actually has some of the mechanics laid out. And this is the wheel structure. So from here, it's all in the CAD. So over these next couple of weeks, I will be really focusing on building this, and then we'll start printing it out. And I'll post another update video once we're around that point. And so for a list of components that I think I'm going to need for him, obviously I'm going to need the Arduino, so some sort of, I'll either use the full-size one or one of the smaller ones, it depends. But luckily his body is pretty big, and I'm thinking it's pretty much going to be empty, so I shouldn't have any size restrictions there, so that'll be really nice. But we'll see once I actually get into it. So I'll need 2 of those DC motors, and they will actually be inside of the treads here. R2, I tried to put the motors closer up in the body and then run gears all the way down. And so in this one, I figured I would throw the motors way closer and make it sort of a direct drive, and then just run wires back up into the body, because there's a nice little sort of leg thing here that will hide the wires pretty well. So that should handle his movement, which is a big part of it. And then as you can see down here, I've got a little servo motor that is attached to a gear that actually swivels his head, and then there will actually be another one up inside here that I haven't quite figured out the mechanics for yet that will make these eye things kind of spin up and down. So that shouldn't be too difficult. And then obviously wires will just run down that as well. And then I will need to fit a speaker and the SD card thing in there as well. And then we'll probably use a Bluetooth module to wirelessly control him. So that is basically what we have for WallE so far. And then here is BB-8. Now this one's a little more interesting because I had some designs laid out for him, but there was some information revealed recently that the stage droid for BB-8 that they rolled out as part of the live demo showing off him for the first time, they found that the ball does not roll on every axis. Like, it just rolls on the same axis and uses some sort of weight to tilt it and rotate that way. So it works kind of like a bicycle or a motorcycle, where you kind of tilt it or tilt yourself to turn. And so that actually makes my life a lot easier for this. So in its simplest form, and quick reminder on this one is going to be purely experimental. This is well out of my league in terms of making robots because I am still very much an amateur. And making a ball that moves like BB-8 does is no easy task. So I'm just going to try my hardest at this, but it's going to be a lot more experimental, and it'll probably require several test builds before I get it to a point that it works well. So basically what I'm going to do for the first try, I'm going to have just a solid axle through the shell, so it'll connect right there and right there. So everything will just rotate around that. And then on the ball, I'm just going to have some gear-like teeth that circle the entire ball, and then a motor down here with a gear that will basically move the electronics around the inside of it, because it'll also be attached to this this axle here. So, and then there will be some sort of weight here, and it might be the battery, and I might have to add some actual weight to it. And that way, when it rolls forward, it's like if we've got the ball like this, and it's sitting like this with the weight down here at the bottom. If we do this, the weight's here, it'll try to roll to correct itself. And so that's what I am banking on for his movement. And then maybe up here there will be some sort of servo with some weight that will be able to just throw the weight to this side, make him tilt, and that way he can turn. And then for the first iteration, I'm not going to do anything fancy with his head. I'm just going to stick a magnet up there and have it be stationary, and just see how hard it is to get that head to stay on. And once I feel confident with all that, I'll move into the second phase, which will be actually getting his head to move a little bit more. So there's still a lot of ifs right here, but this is what I've got so far. So we'll see where this takes us. Well, so that's my update so far. It's taken a while to get to this point, but I think things will start to move quite a bit faster now, especially with WallE. So expect to see another update on him specifically in the next week or two, because I'll be making quite a bit of progress with him. And then also I've had another project that I've been working on that will be coming out in the next week and a half, I believe. And it's just a big 3D printing project. There's no electronics in it, but it is still pretty freaking awesome, and I think you guys will really like it. So keep your eyes out for that. Well, thanks for joining me, guys. See you next time.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video. It helps me out a lot. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at ChaosCoreTech. And once you've done all that, check out some of these other videos I've made. Thanks for watching, guys.